can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host right here, Eric Wilson. It's the midway point of the 2022-23 NHL season, and we're here to recap and give our analysis on everything that's happened up until this point for the New York Rangers. Now, it's been an up and down year for the Rangers, but right now, they're sitting in the first wild card spot, and they're looking like they're in pretty good position. They're in good form right now. They've been winning more games, but they did have that dark period in the midway point of the season a few months ago. They had a real tough stretch there. They were losing games, a lot of overtime losses, a lot of blown leads. They're still blowing leads even to this day. So we're going to go ahead and recap everything that's gone on till this point. But before we really dive into that, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend?
You know, I'm doing good. Looking at the halfway point of the season, I'm more than content with the way the Rangers have been overall. You know, we are coming off that loss to New Jersey where we kind of choked. But you know what they say, a 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey to have. So what are we going to do about that there? But I think we'll get right back on our feet and start winning again.
I think so too. I mean, the Rangers were winning some games right before that loss. Of course, blew another lead to lose a game, but they were on a win streak prior to that, and they've been on a few this season. They've had a few stretches where they've gone on some really solid win games. Right now, the Rangers are 22, 12, and 7 with 51 total points, again, putting them in the first wild card spot. 41 games in with 51 total points, but right now they are 1 point behind Washington with 2 games in hand. So, Eric, what do you think? How do you think this playoff race shapes out here when you're looking at where the Rangers are, first wild card spot, 1 point behind Washington, 2 games in hand? How does that shape out there? Do you think that the Rangers are going to overtake Washington at some point? And what is your opinion on Washington and how they will be able to manage their own playoff race?
I mean, Washington's a pretty good team overall. You know, they got Ovechkin, who's like arguably the greatest goal scorer of all time, and they're going to keep winning. And pretty much every team in the Metropolitan Division is going to keep winning, which makes it really tough to judge the playoff race that's coming up and has really been going on the entire season because every single team in our division is just so good and we're all just so close to each other where like a team like Carolina, who's first in the division, can drop all the way down into a wild card spot in like the span of a week. That's like how crazy it is. So, you know, Rangers being in a wild card spot right now, it's like upsetting that we're not in a divisional spot, but I think we can easily just move in there or even move even further down any day. Like it's just going to keep changing no matter what. But only 1 point behind with 2 games in hand is a nice spot to have. And then the team below us, I believe, is Pittsburgh, who's like 6 points behind us and we'll have like 2 games in hand on them. So things are going to keep changing. But as far as the playoff race goes for now, I'm pretty satisfied with where we're at.
Yeah, so am I, 10th overall in the league, and we've had some really solid performers this season as well. Now, we've been critical of quite a few players. We recently did an episode discussing an Alexis Lafreniere. Should the Rangers maybe explore a trade there? And we've had a few discussions on this channel about whether or not the Rangers should be active at the trade deadline because they might be missing 1 or 2 pieces. Now, like you said, I think that they're right in prime position to make the playoffs, maybe even compete in the playoffs, but they are missing a couple pieces, right, Eric? So what do you think is the biggest thing holding the Rangers back? You know, you mentioned that they're in the wild card spot, but you wish they were in a divisional spot. We all do. And maybe they can fight there, but what will it take? Like, what is missing from this team holding them back from having one of those divisional spots and ultimately being in the wild card spot at the midway point of the season?
I definitely think it's consistency from the team because we've seen what this team can do, you know, coming in, blowing out teams like Carolina, who are first in the league. But then we go up against lesser teams who are lower in the standings and we just get blown out by them. So we know that this team can be really good. We have a lot of the pieces we need to make another deep playoff run like last year, but we need to be more consistent if we're going to actually make that happen. You know, we got to play like our hearts out, game in and game out. Can't play like lesser to worse teams. We really just got to play at the same level every night and just keep up the momentum really is the biggest thing.
Yeah, momentum and everything. That's always important. The Rangers have been very inconsistent, and that's something that we said about Alexis Lafreniere as well when we did that breakdown discussing whether or not the Rangers should trade him. We had a few people who disagreed with us or disagree with me because, Eric, you disagreed with me as well about Alexis Lafreniere. I'm kind of a proponent of looking for trade pieces, you know, looking for what the options are. But we had some people, 03 got in my DMs, told me that I clearly have some sort of memory loss because last season the kid line was the reason that we made it as far as we did, and Alexis Lafreniere was a big part of that. That's absolutely true. But I don't know, man. I just think that the Rangers are missing a piece, and I don't think Alexi Lafreniere is that piece. I think that the Rangers could be in a win now position if they found that one more piece. But Eric, what do you think that piece is? Because this offseason, we said it was the 2C. The Rangers went out there, they got Vincent Trocheck, and he's been a very solid 2C. So that was the piece that we thought was missing. So what is the piece right now? Where on this roster? Of course, I know that consistency, that is a big problem for this team. That is like the main thing that's missing from the Rangers this season is consistency. If they were more consistent, they could win more games. They'd be in that divisional spot. But are they missing a player in any position that you think could provide that consistency, could boost this team? What is that position that the Rangers are missing right now that's separating them from that divisional spot?
If we're talking specific position, I think the biggest, clearest one that we've been talking about for a while now is another top 6 winger. Because, like we've been critical on Lafreniere, but that's kind of been the theme of this season. It's just week to week criticizing a different player, and they usually end up coming around and impressing us in the future. But overall, you look at our top 6, you got superstars like Panarin, Kreider, Zibanejad, and then you got a name like Vitaly Kravtsov and like Jimmy Vesey has been playing up there a little bit. And there's usually just one guy who doesn't really fit in with the rest of that top 6 core right there. So I definitely think getting a better winger to really just fill in that last spot will really solidify that top 6 and make us like pretty much a super team. And, we've discussed guys like Patrick Kane, Bo Horvat, Brock Besser. I saw a recent rumor where Ryan O'Reilly's name was threw in there into the trade mix, who's another really good player. So if we are going to go out into this trade deadline that's coming up in just a couple months and look for a specific player, it's definitely that. And even outside of that, we could use another defenseman maybe. I don't know where they would fit in because, we have a lot of defensive prospects who are going to be really good in a couple years, but maybe just like a rental, someone to just slide in there. Ben Harper has been playing pretty well in their defensive pair, but if we really just want to boost this team as much as possible, that wouldn't hurt either. But I wouldn't say that's like a immediate concern that we need to address.
You say it's not immediate. I personally think it just might be immediate. I really think that if the Rangers go out there at the trade deadline, find that top 6 winger, that's the difference. That's the difference between being a wild card fringe divisional team to being a force in the playoffs. But that's just my opinion. And some of you might agree with me. Some of you might disagree with me. If you disagree, let me have it down in the comment section. Please scream at me. I love when you guys scream at me. But let's go on to the next topic in this segment, Eric. And so what I want to discuss here is the team MVP so far. Because we've had a lot of standout performers. We've had some players fall back and not really perform up to expectations, as we've mentioned, Lafreniere and a few others. But I want to talk about who's exceeded our expectations, who's played really well. And I think that the first name that comes to mind is Artemi Panarin. 45 points. He's our point leader. He's been phenomenal this season. Now, he hasn't scored necessarily a bunch of goals, but the assists, his passing, I mean, you've said it before, Eric. Artemi Panarin is arguably the best passer in the NHL. He is such a playmaker. So who is your pick for the MVP? Is it Panarin or maybe it's Igor Shesterkin? Who is the most valuable player on the Rangers through the midway point of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I was just about to say that while Panarin might be our best offensive guy so far this season, I think even though it's a basic answer, the team MVP can't be anyone other than Igor. You look at Igor's stats this season, he's 18-6-6, a .248 goals against average with a .916 save percentage. Those numbers aren't as good as they were last season, but they're still like top 5 in the entire league. And there are a lot of games this season that we've just narrowly won by. We've had to make a little bit of a comeback in some of them because of offensive and defensive problems. And he's stolen us some games. He's stolen us a lot of games. And we've been relying on him a lot this season. And I don't think the Rangers would be in even like the wild card position if we didn't have Igor right now. So I can't really say enough about how much he is worth to this team. But then, you got other guys who contribute a lot. Panarin at 45 points, like you said, Zibanejad's right behind him at 44. If they both have a good second half of the season, I can see either of them hitting 100 points for the first time in their career. And then obviously on defense, Adam Fox is the backbone of that defensive core right there. He's at 40 points, so he could make a push for 80, 90 points this season. So there are a lot of guys who are contributing, and I still think it's got to go to Igor, though.
Yeah, the player you just mentioned is the next player that I want to discuss before I give my take on this. I think that Igor Shesterkin is also the MVP of this team. I think that the Rangers have been so inconsistent, but Igor Shesterkin has been so consistent. So his consistency at times has counteracted the inconsistency of the offense and even the defense because they've been inconsistent as well. So when the Rangers are very inconsistent in their play, at least they know they have a very good goalie who can make the saves and pretty much keep them in every single game. The Rangers don't get blown out too often. They'll blow some leads. A lot of that has to do with fatigue, either on the offensive side of the puck or even the defense getting fatigued at the end of the game. That happens, but a lot of those games could be blowouts if the Rangers didn't have Igor Shesterkin in net, in my eyes, and that's how I feel. So I really think that Igor Shesterkin is the MVP. I love what Artemi Panarin has done so far this season, and I think that he's been the best offensive player for the Rangers. But I would even go as far as to say this next player that I want to discuss, Adam Fox, has arguably been even more valuable than anybody on offense, because if you're looking what he's producing from a defensive standpoint, 40 points as a defenseman, plus we know he's been a lockdown defender, physical guy who's been great in that regard as well. Eric, what is your take on Adam Fox and the season that he's having? Because to me, I think that he's just been tremendous.
I mean, yeah, he's been incredible. He's probably even making a case to be considered for the Norris Trophy again, just on how well he's been playing. And it's extremely even valuable to a team like the New York Rangers, who so far this season have struggled defensively a little bit. And, you know, because obviously Trouba, our captain, is supposed to be the leader of the whole team, not even just the defense, hasn't played up to his normal standards, has been a little disappointing so far. Guys like Ryan Lindgren, who usually are extremely well defensively, have kind of just disappeared from the ice right now. And like, besides maybe like Schneider and Miller, Fox has really been our only above average defenseman so far this season. And he's really just carrying the defense on his back right now. He's putting up points and he's playing great defense. And as well, as much as we love Igor, as much as he makes the saves for us, I think our goals against, which I think is at 113 so far at this point of the season, would be a lot higher if Adam Fox was not on the ice for a majority of each game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Again, I just think you can't say enough about how valuable Adam Fox has been to the defense and everything that he's done on the defensive end. And again, contributing even offensively with 40 points. He's just been phenomenal. But Eric, here's another topic that I want to discuss, because I think that this is a really crucial part of hockey. You know, it's the special teams. And I think that the Rangers have been consistent in that regard, been inconsistent in that regard. I think when you look at last season, Eric, how do you feel that they compare in special teams to the 2021-22 season? And what is your take on their special teams so far this season?
I would say overall, the special teams this season has been good. Not great, not bad, just good. You know, our power play is at 23.6%, which is 13th in the league. And the penalty kill is at 80.8%, which is good for 12th in the league. So it's pretty much just average right now. And it does need to improve. It's not as good as it was last season, which is really what made us be as good as we were, especially because the Rangers are a team that do struggle offensively in the 5-on-5 play. We need to start taking more shots on net, and we need to stop letting other teams take as many shots on net against us. So if we really want to make a deep playoff push, and even get into the playoffs, we do need to improve our special teams. The power play has been consistently inconsistent all season. You know, we'll go on these weird spans where we'll put up like 2 power play goals a game in like a week, and then we'll go 2 weeks without scoring a power play goal. So recently, in the last couple of games, the offense has been a lot better. I know we've scored 17 goals in our last 4 games, which is as like over 4 goals a game right there. So the goals will come in. The power play will improve if we keep playing like that. The penalty kill, not horrible. Just got to lock down that D a little bit more. That really just falls onto the hands of the defenseman, mainly Jacob Trouba, but average. I'm content.
Eric is content. I'm content. I think that they've been decent enough. Now, they could be better, and I think that once we get to the postseason, they're going to have to improve upon that situation a little bit, the special teams, that is. But I do think that they've been solid this year, and it hasn't been something that's killed the Rangers, which is something to be thankful of. But okay, Eric, let's move on to the next segment. And what I want to discuss now is who's been the most disappointing for the Rangers this year. I think I know who you're going to say, and I think it's a certain defenseman that you've been quite critical of. You already know who I'm going to say, and it's Alexis Lafreniere, because I've expected so much more from him. And you know what, Eric? I have to say, I think that when we think back on this offseason, we talk about, you mentioned, probably the biggest disappointment is, and the biggest weak link in this line is the top 6 winger, right? We're really missing one of those. And I can't help but just think, you know, I've got my Italian badge on right here. Frank Vetrano, man. What do you think? I want to bring him up. Where is this team if Frank Vetrano is still in the lines?
I think we are probably similar to where we are, but just like a little bit better. And I think we would definitely be like 2nd or 3rd in the division right now. And I think about this a lot, like Vetrano and Andrew Kopp. I miss them so much because Vetrano was like a pure goal scorer. You know, he came, went right onto that second line. and he was just scoring. Panarin was passing it to him, and Vetrano was scoring. It was perfect. And then Cobb fit so nicely up on the first line with Kreider and Zibanejad. And man, do we miss them every day when you got guys like Vitaly Kravtsov who can't finish a passing play for his life. But, we couldn't afford them, so we had to let them go. Hopefully this, like, two guys like that is exactly what we need at this trade deadline. Just really fill them, trade back for them.
I was just about to say that. I think we're going to have to start advocating right here on Fireside Rangers and try and convince the Rangers to go ahead and trade for Frank Vetrano. Bring him back. The Italian stallion. He was born to be a New York Ranger. He's perfect. Bring him back. Give me something to just love about this team. I mean, of course I love this team, but Frank Vetrano, man, and his Italian heritage holds a safe, special spot in my heart.
Yeah, we did get a little sidetracked there. To answer your question from before, though, Trouba, he's been extremely disappointing. But overall, I might have to say Yaroslav Halak. And I know he's improved his game recently. He started picking up wins, looked a little bit more confident when he's in between the pipes for the Rangers. But just overall, we do need to see more from him. He's only played in like 10 games so far this season. And we're going to need him to start playing a little more and get a little more wins because we can't tire out Igor right now, especially heading into the second half of the season. We're going to need him well rested and healthy for the playoffs. So I do need Halak to step up. And I'm not like scared of playing him more, but I'm also not fully confident. I think it's definitely been a little disappointing.
Yeah, I definitely think there's disappointment to go around. Jacob Trouba, Alexis Lafreniere, those are probably the two players that have been the most disappointing in my eyes for the New York Rangers. Again, Alexis Lafreniere just not taking that step forward. We've talked about him a lot, and I've mentioned him probably way too many times in this episode as well, because we just did a whole episode on him. But sometimes I just have that little hater gene in me, and it comes out every now and then. I just turn into a real hater for no reason. I'm kind of a grumpy old man at heart. So Alexis Lafreniere, again, a player that we just had such high hopes for, but has pretty much disappointed this season. Has not produced a lot of points. I know he had a point recently, but he really just hasn't scored much. He just hasn't done enough, and the Rangers are obviously disappointed as well. They want him to be better. That's a quote from Gerard Gallant. He said he needs to be better, and that was following the healthy scratch of Alexis Lafreniere last week. So hopefully he's able to elevate his game. But again, Eric, just compare Alexis Lafreniere to a guy like Vetrano, and man, doesn't that make you wonder, what if the Rangers could end up trading Lafreniere at this deadline and bringing Vetrano back? I know, now I'm getting ridiculous. Now I'm being a conspiracy theorist, but it's just something to throw out there.
What if we bring Ryan Strome back?
All right, I think we're going to end this episode. Thanks for tuning in. No. Yeah, I don't know about that one, Eric, but to be fair, you know what? I can't even dive into the Strome.
I probably wouldn't watch the rest of the season if that happened. That would just be like the universe slapping me in the face. And now that I said it, I've like manifested it, and I guarantee that it's going to happen.
No, we're going to manifest Vetrano. We're going to manifest Vetrano. We're bringing him here.
I want to manifest Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane would be perfect. And I know I'm going to get hate for that too.
Patrick Kane would be perfect. And I keep seeing Rangers rumors about Patrick Kane. Let's talk about that real quick. It's a midway point of the season, so it's going to be a long episode. We're going to dive into everything. But the Patrick Kane rumors, Eric, obviously you're excited about those. But we've talked about it a few episodes ago, and we discussed how much the Rangers would have to give up because it's quite a lot considering the cap space. Now, it's not necessarily about giving up a ton of assets. Patrick Kane wants out. He's on an expiring deal. He's getting older. I don't think that there's that much that the Rangers have to trade in terms of matching the value of Patrick Kane. But the problem is his contract is so huge and it costs so much money. So who are you willing to sacrifice? Midway point of the season, you've got more of an idea of who can stay and who can go. I think Alexis Lafreniere can get thrown into this trade. But what do you think? How do the Rangers maybe make a deal like that?
See, like it would take a lot. And, that's the thing, sometimes it keeps me up late at night. I'm just cranking numbers in my head. Like, how would the Rangers pull this off? And it's like one of those things where you can't even just trade like a first round draft pick and like a couple prospects because we need money, even if Chicago retains half of Kane's salary, it's still like $5 million. So you're definitely getting rid of a roster player or two. I'm totally okay with throwing Kravtsov in there. I don't really want to get rid of a guy like Jimmy Vesey, who we just like re-signed and who has looked really good this season. Maybe like Kravtsov, Goudreau, maybe. A couple of the bottom six guys right there. I don't think it's smart to get rid of any of the kids, even if they have been disappointing. It'd be like the biggest waste in New York Rangers history to get rid of Lafreniere. But, it's like it seems like it's impossible to pull off a Patrick Kane trade and make it work. But the amount of times that I've seen Patrick Kane's name tied to the Rangers right now and all these rumors and stuff, man, we might just be crazy enough to do it, you know? So we'll see what happens.
Hey, put nothing past Chris Drury. That man is a legend. He's built this team up rather quickly into a solid contender. You gotta be impressed with what he's done. You can't say enough about what Chris Drury has done with this team. But let's talk about Gerard Gallant. And I think this will probably be the last segment that I want to bring up here because we've kind of hit on all of the segments. You know, we've hit on all the different parts of the team, the goalkeeping, the offense, the defense, and what's next. We've touched on all that, but let's talk about the coaching. Gerard Gallant has definitely welcomed some criticism this year. He has not been as good as he was last year in my eyes, and he's made some mistakes throughout the season. He went through a whole month where there was basically a new lineup every single night. He was changing the lines, and to be fair, he had to do that, and it kind of did right the ship for the Rangers, but it looked really ugly there for a little while. The Rangers were failing to produce. Some of the biggest names and biggest stars were failing to produce. There was a while where Zibanejad was struggling. Kreider really struggled for a good portion of the season. There was a lot of struggles throughout the team. And how much, Eric, do you place that on Chris Drury? Not Chris Drury, Gerard Gallant. You know, how much blame does he get for the struggles of the Rangers this season? And what can he do better to help the Rangers propel themselves into the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the blame does have to go on him for our struggles. You know, changing the lines every day. It took him a little bit longer than it should have to find some pairings that really worked out. And then, you know, he's made some questionable decisions like benching Lafreniere that one game, even though it was just a wake-up call. It was still like, you really need to and stuff, you know? So it's like, yeah, we can put some blame on him, but at the same time, is there really that much blame to go around right now? As even though he hasn't been as good as he has been last season, Rangers are still 22-12-7 right now. Like, that's a good record. So it's like, yeah, we can be critical of him, but can't really hate too much. You know, I'm satisfied with what he's done.
Yeah, I think I'm satisfied as well. Listen, like I said, there was a really ugly period there. We even made an episode saying, should he be on the hot seat? And there was a time where a lot of Rangers fans felt like he should be, and that the Rangers should start questioning Gerard Gallant's capabilities of coaching this team. But he really turned the team around. I mean, there was a while there where we thought this team wouldn't even sniff the postseason, but now they do hold the wild card spot currently, and they're competing, and maybe they move up in the standings even further. So I think a lot of credit needs to go to Gerard Gallant, as much criticism. I think it's pretty even on both sides. You can give him a lot of criticism, but you also got to give him a lot of credit because he did kind of pull his team out from the depths of hell. He made a lot of mistakes, buried them deep into hell, and then pulled them out of it. So hats off to Gerard Gallant. I'm not actually going to take my hat off because my hair is messed up, but hats off to him. I think he did a great job of really rallying this team back to somewhere positive by the midway point of the season. And I'm excited to see what happens in the second half. And of course, right here on Fireside Rangers, we'll be giving you updates on the second half of the season and giving you a recap on the end of the season as well. So make sure to subscribe if you're new. Comment down below what your thoughts are on the Rangers at the midway point of the season, and leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Ring the bell so you never miss an episode, because we got plenty more just like this coming right here on Fireside Rangers. We'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
The Rangers.
Woo!
He shoots.